right here at 1 o'clock. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kimberly Glowacki, and I'm the Director of Strategic Growth for IP Consulting. And I'm going to be your host for today's webinar. Thank you for carving out an hour of your time to spend with us. I know how packed calendars can be, and I promise we're going to do our best to make sure that this is worth the time you're investing. Now, the title of today's webinar is AI for the Business Leader, and the framing is intentional here. This is not going to be a technical deep dive. This is a practical, grounded conversation about what AI can actually do for your organization right now. We're going to talk about how to use it safely and what it looks like in a real-world application. The team asked me to host this webinar because I'm not a technologist. I'm a business leader, and I promise you, if I can do it, you can do it too. So a couple of quick housekeeping items before we get started. We're expecting this to run about an hour. So if you have any questions at any point, feel free to drop those into the chat. We've got Stephen here with us, and he's working behind the scenes to collect these for our Q&A that we're going to have at the end. So no question that you can ask is too basic, and I really mean that because I've asked some very basic questions along the way. So let me go ahead and introduce the rest of my team here. So joining me today, I have Milton Moore. Milton is the CEO of IP Consulting, and Milton has been a passionate AI champion for our organization. He's been evaluating so many different tools that enable our business today. He's also been running our organization, our technology business, for 20 years. So he has a lot of wisdom around what works and even the things that don't work. So especially when it comes to adoption, which I think is going to be a big part of our conversation today. I also have Joe Rendy with us, and he's an account executive with the HATS AI team. HATS has created the platform that really is part of our offering. Every time I talk to Joe, he gets my creative juices flowing. I hope he does that for you too, around what's possible. The bulk of the time we spend today is really going to be Joe walking us through that live platform demo that we advertised about. And again, not technical. I made Joe commit to me before we got on the webinar that he would show what's possible and keep it so simple that even my mother could follow along. So good afternoon, gentlemen.
Hi.
All right, friends, let's go ahead and let's dig into this. I'm going to talk about our agenda briefly. So first, we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about where organizations are right now when it comes to AI. Then we're going to get into the tool itself and some of the things that make it a little bit different. Then I'm going to turn it back over to Joe that I was just talking about to show us that live platform demo. And then we're going to share the pricing tiers, and I even have a free trial offer for everyone here. And then we're going to open it up at the end, like I said, to questions. So Milton and Joe, during the course of our webinar, I'm going to invite you to interrupt me, and I'm going to ask for your forgiveness as I may interrupt you as well. I want to make sure that our focus today really stays at that business level, so not that technical level. So Milton, Joe, can I ask you to take a moment to tell everyone about your organization and just a little bit about the partnership between IP Consulting and HATS? Milton, can you go ahead and kick us off?
Yeah, thanks, Kim. I'm really proud that IP Consulting is celebrating 20 years in business. We've spent that time helping organizations with managed IT, cybersecurity, and compliance. We've been working with AI for a while now, and what we've brought to market with Navigate AI fits our mission, technology with a focus on outcomes. We've partnered with HATS because their platform is built with a focus on security, and that's a perfect match for what we do. I'll turn it over to Joe to talk about HATS AI.
Yeah, thank you, Kim and Milton. Everyone, thank you for joining. Very happy to be here today to represent HATS and our partnership here with IP Consulting. My name is Joe Rendy, and HATS is a New York-based technology company that makes AI accessible to businesses of all sizes. So our platform lets companies build custom AI tools, things like chatbots, document handlers, workflow automations, using simple conversation and no code. And here's why that matters. AI isn't just for big tech companies anymore. Every business is sitting on data that could be working smarter for them. The question is how to access it without hiring engineers or spending months on implementation. And that's where HATS comes in. So very excited to take you through the demo portion of the webinar here, and I'll hand it back to Kim.
Hey, Joe, not so fast. I want to touch in on something. I heard Milton mention it, and you mentioned it too about security, but I happen to know this, so I'm cheating a little bit. But How was HAT started?
Yeah, so the founders of Hats also founded a cybersecurity company about 10 years ago. And so really that security aspect is just ingrained in our DNA. And that's what allows us to partner with organizations like IP Consulting to not just provide AI, but secure AI. And that's going to be important when we talk about how data is being processed by these LLMs versus how that happens in Hats. But I don't want to give away too much before we jump in. Is that what you're looking for there,
Thanks,
Kim?
Joe. No, I appreciate that because I think that's really the part of the power of the partnership, and I think it's an important distinction. So,
Yeah.
one of the other things I want to make sure that we're touching on is this is a platform. You'll hear us talking about it as a platform. It's not just a license and go figure it out. This is a supported model with access to resources and active community and teams like Milton's team and Joe's team. So let's go ahead and before we dig in too deep, I want to make sure that we're speaking in the same language because I know when it comes to AI, there's a lot of jargon that's out there. So let's try to stay as jargon free as possible, as much as we can anyway. So when we say artificial intelligence or AI, I want to make sure that we know we're talking about software that's trained on massive amounts of data to understand language and be able to perform tasks. And then the LLM or the large language model is really the technology that enables that AI software. And this is what gives AI that ability to do things like writing and analysis and summarization. And I mean, I guess if you're inclined, also some coding. But it's all done in plain English. You heard Joe say, you don't need an engineer. It's not coding. So the result is that you don't have to be technical to build if you have the right AI tool. You just have to know what you want and be able to ask for that. And that's called prompting. And we could spend an entire webinar talking just about, the best practices when it comes to prompting. To my marketing folks, that might be an opportunity for a future webinar. But let's take a look also at some of those major platforms that you see there in that lower box. And you'll see things like ChatGPT from OpenAI and Microsoft Copilot or Google Gemini and Claude from Anthropic. And the easiest way for me to really wrap my head around this is I think of it kind of like car manufacturers. So think of OpenAI and Google and Anthropic as kind of the Ford and the Chevy and the Toyotas of the world. And then models like ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude as being kind of like that Explorer, that Silverado, or that Camry. And so I just want to make sure as we're talking about these things that we understand that because I think what makes the HATS platform interesting is that your team is going to get access to 70 or more of those different models, and it's going to be all in one place. And the interesting thing here is I say, well, why do I care about one versus another? Each one of those models has its own strength. And as people, we all tend to have our own preference. So depending on what the workload is, and I know that Joe's going to show you, some ways that we can even use those tools when we don't know what we're asking for. So now that we have some of those key terms, I think, under our belt, let's get some context around the why now. So I want to talk about where a lot of organizations live right now, and I suspect a few of you may be seeing this, or you're going to start seeing it very soon. So I put this slide together because I've had this exact conversation with countless business leaders over the last year. I'm not going to read it all to you, but let me make some summarization comments here is that I'm hearing things like, I just haven't figured out what to do with AI. We know it's powerful, but we just haven't figured out how to leverage it. Or I don't know which AI tool is going to best serve my team. So do I pick something from Anthropic or do I pick something from OpenAI? I'm not sure which one is going to give me the best. And it's hard to stay ahead of that AI curve, especially when it feels like, at least to me, it's changing daily. So that's another thing. You got to look for the professionals in the team that are staying on top of it. And then also, how do I make sure that I'm getting the ROI out of those tools securely? And you'll hear us talk a lot about the importance of security. So I'll just say if you're nodding your head up and down, I can't see you, but you're absolutely in the right place. And I want to promise you that by the end of the hour that we've spent together, you're going to have a much clearer picture on what this could look like for you and your team. So now I want to shift over to something that tends to catch leaders off guard a little bit. The question isn't whether your team is using AI. They are. The question is whether you know about them using AI. And the term for this is called shadow AI. And it's really the unsanctioned use of those tools by employees without IT's knowledge or even their approval. And the reason why the approval is so important is because of that security aspect. But we know that these are things that are happening everywhere right now, regardless of the size of your organization. The scary part is in practice, this really looks like someone using ChatGPT to summarize a contract or someone running financial data through a free AI tool to get some summarizations or even someone drafting a proposal using internal or proprietary information so that they can get something done. Every one of those scenarios means your company data has left the building, right? I know when my car gets stolen because it's no longer in the driveway, right? But when the data is still in your environment, you don't know that it left the building. There's no audit trail, there's no governance. More importantly, there's no way to pull it back. So don't get me wrong, your employees are not bad actors. These are your best and most motivated people, and they're just trying to get things done faster, more efficiently. They just need help finding the safest way for them to do it. They just need the tools that marry up to what they're trying to accomplish. So, all right, I wanted to put some numbers together behind the scenes because I think the numbers kind of help us tell that story as well. So, some interesting things on this slide is the 89%. 89% of businesses are already using AI in some form. That's staggering. So that means that they're using it. Are they all using the same tools? Are they using the tools safely? Maybe not, right? I think that goes back to the statistic that's just below that. I'm not sure why it's so small, but maybe it's just my bad eyes. But only 14% have fully integrated it. So between that 14% and the 89%, really it's the opportunity, right? Your business opportunity and potentially even your competitive advantage. The other thing I wanted to highlight here that I think is interesting, at least for me it was, because I'm old enough to remember when they called it the information superhighway. But the internet, it took the internet 5 years for it to be adopted. In comparison to ChatGPT, 2 months. That's staggering, 2 months. So and then you think of things even like Facebook was 4 years and Instagram took 2.5 years. So when we talked a little bit earlier about how really the AI train is moving and it's difficult because it's changing daily, that's really the indication, 2 months. So there's other notable statistics here. We'll share this presentation with you at the end, but the one thing I want to make sure we're highlighting is that it's the organizations who are getting ahead of this in the next 12 months. They're going to look completely different than their competition, right? So the ones who are still sitting on the fence and they're trying to decide, they're going to be in a very different position. And I know this sounds like hype, and I don't mean for it to. It really is just the math of adoption curves. So let's go ahead and let's get practical. What does this look like in an actual organization? So one of the things I hear a lot from leaders when I talk to them is, hey, this sounds great for my marketing team, but what about the rest of our team? And I love this question because the answer is AI really touches every single function across your organization. And I'm going to prove it to you. I want to walk you through 5 of them, and I'm going to do it fairly quickly so that we can start connecting the dots for your people. But I want to make sure that we're moving fast enough to give Joe time to go through the actual demos. So I'm going to flip over here to HR and the people operations. And this is really one of the highest leverage areas. So think about, the things that you can do that take a lot of time. So job description creation. So if you could get your HR team to go from a few bullets to just a polished review job description in just minutes, the power that would give them. Or even using it to summarize, resume screenings or candidate conversations and drafting those employee documents. Really, I think that really the sky is the limit when it comes to the HR people and what they can do. And really this empowers the the HR people to spend less time on documentation and more time on what matters the most, which is the people of your organization, and really looking at that strategic decisions, the ones that actually matter. So I think this is, if you're not using it for HR, please consider that. I'm going to flip over to marketing, and I would love to talk about this because I've seen a lot of this, but I don't lead marketing. So Milton, would you mind sharing some of the wins that you've seen? I know this is pretty close to you.
Absolutely. This is probably the first area where I implemented and saw immediate returns. Marketing is one of those areas where everybody knows they need more content, but nobody has the time to create it. Navigate AI changes that. Your team can take one brief and turn it into a social post, email, client communication consistently, quickly, and on brand. And that's the big key thing there, on brand, being able to already have your brand guides and your messaging standards and have it create content for you that's very good and consistent. And for everyone who spent a week on a proposal or RFP response, AI can cut that down in more than half. So more output, better quality, same size team. That's the true outcome that you're looking for.
No, that's excellent, Milton. I mean, really, and this is from someone who's lived it in the trenches. I know that you've built a lot of tools around that, and that was really how you got my attention when it came to AI. So thank you for that. But let's flip over and let's look at operations. And this is where I think a lot of invisible time goes. So this one, all those contracts that have to be reviewed and vendor agreements, and that's to say nothing of just general meetings. I know it's on here. I think it's the third bullet. So taking meeting notes and converting them into structured action items. This really isn't operations, you guys. This really is across every different piece of your organization. I know I use it a ton for writing summaries and for giving me my to-dos. And so I don't want that to just live on this slide, but it's hard to just repeat it everywhere. So I think that, the operations folks spend a lot of their time in documentation around process and, workflows and things like that. We really want to elevate and empower those folks in your ops team to work on things that really drive your business forward and not just the busy work that we all know still has to be done. And then I've got the finance team. Well, I'll tell you this, I cheated on this slide just a little bit. I went to our head of finance and I said, hey, listen, I've got to speak to your finance team and I've got some ideas, but can you give me some ideas on how you're using it? And I had to slow him down a little bit. And he says, oh my gosh, he says, I'm using this as saving a significant amount of time. Because a lot of what our finance leader's role is really taking the numbers and turning them into a narrative. I know I would prefer the story rather than the numbers. And so AI does that exceptionally well. So this probably is one of the most powerful unsung opportunities for AI adoption. The other thing that we really spent a lot of time talking about with our internal finance leadership is taking and doing checks line item by line item. And I really never thought about that. He was indicating that it was a half time to a full-time employee that he's saving in doing stare and compare checks. So listen, if you love to do stare and compare checks, I'm certainly not trying to make it difficult for you. Please keep doing that, but know that there's some opportunities to have AI do some of that work for you, to get you engaged on solving, some of those numbers issues that I'm not a finance person. I don't want to see. So, all right. The last one I have here is around our leadership and executive decision making. And this is where I spend a lot of time thinking about AI and really the strategic brainstorming. Where do we go from here? What are the best practices that other folks are using? What's my competition up to? Right? I think about communications. How do I communicate this? An internal communication versus a shareholder communication, customers, or even my vendors. So I really love the idea of getting myself back into leading my teams because there's no part of me that enjoys staring at a blank piece of paper. My team will pick on me because I always say, hey, AI is my soup starter. So I never have to stare at a blank piece of paper. I can at least get something. Now, I think you'll hear the term human in the loop, which means, hey, we're not getting rid of people. We're just empowering people. And that's really what you're hearing me talk about, making the folks in your organization more efficient, helping them to move faster at the speed they want to move at. And so not having to stare at a blank piece of paper, getting me 25, 50, 75% of the way there is certainly helping with headwinds. All right, so I had a chance to talk about some of those use cases across the different departments, hopefully in your organization. I want to talk about a little bit now before Joe takes us into the demo on a couple of concepts that were a little confusing, at least to me, in the beginning. So as I was going on my AI journey. So When Joe starts talking about a workflow, I just want you to know a workflow is just simply, it orchestrates a series of repeatable steps or tasks that AI carries out automatically for you. And it's triggered by a single action. So I start with one thing and it's going to do a bunch of work for me. And then the second piece here is the AI agent. And an agent provides the ongoing conversational assistance with a role and maybe, it's memory or scoped knowledge. I like to think of this as having a trained employee. So someone I can ask a question of and assign tasks and it needs minimal input. And then they're going to go and they're going to work without me having to check in on them every 5 minutes. And then something we don't have on the slide here I'm going to talk about is an app. And so an app is something that it's going to do one repeatable task very well. And so it's very simple. And if you're unsure, start with an app, right? Complexity is not the virtue on day one. We really just want to start with simple and then we can build from there. So I know Joe is going to show you a couple of these live in a moment, and I know he's going to share with you what I'll say is my favorite tool as he's creating these. So do pay attention when you hear him talk about the Hats AI Workshop tool. And I promise you, Joe is not going to write a single line of code. Right, Joe? Oh, he's muted. He's muted.
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, I promise no coding. I couldn't if I wanted to.
Perfect. Perfect. All right, Joe, I'm going to turn the stage over to you. My favorite part of the webinar, Joe's going to go ahead and take over the screen share here. He's going to walk you through the actual platform. Joe, I know that you were going to build some things out like a workflow, but before we get into those, can I have you show the chat functionality? I think a lot of people have seen this. And again, I want to say that I reserve the right to interrupt if I want to make sure that we're highlighting something really cool.
Sure, I just want to make sure my screen's coming through. Can everyone see that?
We see it.
Awesome. So again, thank you, everybody. I'm happy to be here to take you through the Hats platform. Before I do jump in, I just want to point out one thing. So what we're looking at here is the chat interface. This is the Hats platform itself. One thing we touched on early on was kind of adoption and how we help your organization drive AI internally. And one thing we have built in here is this learning portal that houses different modules. So not only are you getting the platform here with the ability to now build out all of these tools, but we're going to help your team not only learn about the platform, but learn about how to leverage AI at work and start to get their mind going around that ideation and what they can create to make this their own. So I did just want to point out that with this, there will be a training component. So it's going to get your team familiar. But once the training is complete, we consider that onboarding. We get folks right here into the chat. And the chat is what's going to house the now 72 different LLMs that are in the platform here. So you can access all of your LLMs directly through here. Once I turn off my auto mode, you can view all of the different models. So we have all of the standard premium models that we've all heard of, Claude, GPT, Gemini, and then we have 65 others that may not be as mainstream, but deliver very similar output. And to Kim's point earlier, they all focus on different tasks and perform different tasks at different levels. So we've gone in and categorized them all by the specific use case. So if you're looking for something for writing and content, or something that's more code for coding and technical use, or even image generation, you can narrow the scope of all of these models to select a model that's most appropriate for the task. But recently we have launched what we consider auto model selection, again, just to help with ease of use. So now, based on your input here in the chat, which Kim referred to as prompting, based on your prompt, it's going to go in and select the appropriate model for the use case based on what you're prompting. So again, just another way to make it more user-friendly. But really, selecting the LLM is only one component. What's going to make this powerful is going in and being able to integrate the AI into your existing tech stack, like your CRM or your email. So the real power isn't just in the LLM, but how it interacts with your data. So here you have the ability to upload files or information to help optimize the output of your prompt. We also have pre-built tools and integrations in here. So these pre-built tools, these don't require any type of license. Again, they just help kind of narrow the scope of your output. And one I'm going to highlight during the demo here is the HATS Workshop Assistant. I know Kim likes to refer to this one as the magic wand, and she's not wrong. That's exactly what it is, and I'll show you why. But outside of just the pre-built tools, we also have over 75 pre-built integrations, which will help you leverage the existing data with the LLM. And if we don't have a direct integration into that data source or that application, the team at IP Consulting is very familiar with building out custom MCP servers, custom connections to that data to help you bring it into this, again, to just make this as powerful as it can be. So from there, I am going to pivot over to the demo. And
Joe,
yeah,
I told you that I reserve the right to interrupt. So
please
the
do.
one thing I think that I want to make sure that we're highlighting as well, I think those tools are amazing. The one thing I think is the best about them is that just like we can auto select the model, I don't know which model I need to use, so I'm going to do the auto select and it's going to figure it out based on whatever I've typed in that prompt. I can also auto tool. So as soon as I toggle that on, you saw Joe just toggled it here. It gives me the opportunity to say, I don't know what I need. It's going to figure it out for me. So they've made it the easy button every step of the way. The other thing I wanted to kind of highlight here is when we're talking about models, there's a few different ways to pick it. There's absolutely the auto model. You can pick it by category. But if you're someone like me who says, listen, I like my GPT. I don't want you to take away my GPT. I can actually go in and I can look for it specifically. If you go to view all models there, yeah, I can actually pick it by the OpenAI and I can only look at those models. So I say this because I think it's important if you have some folks who are say Anthropic is the way to go. Sure, if that's what you believe, I want to make sure that you get the tools that work for you. Sorry,
Yeah.
Joe, you can.
Great point there. And just to piggyback on that a little bit, that can be customized, right? So the view can be fit to your business, what you want to see. If you only want to see 4 or 5 models in there, the team can work with you on setting that up. We just provide all of the models there curated into one platform and then let you determine how it's best used within your organization. So really good call out there, Kim. So now kind of pivoting into the demo portion here, and this is where it's going to get fun. The challenge I hear from businesses every single day is that you need more time. You need your team focused on high value work, not the repetitive tasks. So you want to automate more, but every time you look into AI solutions, you're facing complex software or expensive developers to build custom solutions, expensive consultants to tell you stuff you probably already know, and tools that promise a lot but need tons of setup. So today I want to show you something very different. I'm going to build 2 real working AI solutions right here, right now, right in front of you. No recorded videos, no smoke and mirrors, just real-time builds that you can start using today. So before we dive in, let me tell you what we're going to cover. I'll walk you through 2 distinct use cases, one for sales, one for marketing, show you exactly how fast HATS builds these from very simple, natural language, no coding, and I'll test them live so that you can see them working in real scenarios. And I'll explain why this changes how you think about automation. So by the end of the session, you'll understand why businesses are using HATS to solve problems literally in minutes versus months. So the first one I'm going to start with is a sales challenge. And let's start with a scenario that I know many of you deal with, and that's sales research. So if we think about what happens when you get a meeting with a new prospect, you need to know what their company's been up to. Did they just raise funding, launch new products, have a leadership change? What are they posting about on social? What's important to them? Like what press mentions have they gotten? So if you're like most sales professionals, you spend anywhere from 30 minutes to an hour per prospect researching. And here's the kicker, like that happens every single meeting. So that's hours of unbillable research time every single week. So if we're honest about what that could potentially cost a business, if one sales rep is spending 15 hours a week on research, that's 750 hours per year. We'll call it $50 an hour. That's over $37,000 in non-selling time per rep across a team of 10. Now we're talking $370,000. So the worst part of all of that is that most of the research you're able to do in that window of time is really just surface level because, again, you don't have the time to go deeper. So what if I told you research could happen in seconds? Not because you're working faster, but because you have an AI assistant that's going to do it for you. So this is what I'm going to call our lead research agent, and let's build it together. So right now I'm going to leverage the chat within Hats. You can also build in the workshop here, but to show the simplicity and the tools that we have in the platform, I'm going to build it directly in the chat here. So again, I'm going to go in and leverage the magic wand here, the Hats Workshop Assistant. I'm going to make sure that's enabled. So here we can see I have one tool there, the Workshop Assistant, and plain English, no code. I'm going to tell it to go in and create an agent that researches prospects by searching the web for their company news and recent updates. So if I just kick this off, we're going to watch what happens. It's going to analyze my request, identify any tools that are needed, and then structure the workflow. The workflow, and it's going to build out the agent all from one sentence, right? So just bear with me 1 second here. You can see it's working through it. It's determining web search is going to be essential, setting up how to take a company name as input, and then how to return structured, useful output, right? So a developer would take hours to plan and build this. Hats is literally doing it in seconds. The only thing it didn't do was give me a link. So I wasn't specific enough with my instructions there. So that's how you know it's a live demo. All right, cool. So, it's created. So let's take a look at what we built here. So with a very simple prompt, it's now gone in, created this agent, named the agent, it's given it a description, built out some pretty thorough instructions here of what it's supposed to do, all from my very simple prompt. So now I want to make it real. Instead of using a fake company, let's see what we can do here. What's a good company to leverage? So once you build your agent, you can leverage it here in the workshop, or if it's something that you're going to be using every day, you can actually come into your chat. And down here underneath your chats, you have your agents. So you can see the prospect research agent that I just created. So if I come in here and I ask, what recent news does Spirit Airlines have? That's kind of top of mind. So now this is going to come in. We're going to watch it work. And right now it's searching the web in real time, pulling the latest news about Spirit. And it's not just going to dump links at me and, here's the latest news, go in. It's going to actually like synthesize the news that's out there and give me some key points. So what this means for your team, what your sellers, there's, a 30-second briefing before every single call. They can come in here. Now that this agent is created, it could be shared across the organization. They can use this every single day before every single call. And so there's no more, let me Google that real quick. This is more time selling, less time researching. And now this is a tool that they have forever. So if we go in here and we say, just to run another test to show some flexibility, I know it mentioned it there, but now we have this tool to go and research organizations. I can say, who is their CEO? So you can pivot in here. Once you ask, for the high level information, you want to dive into specific questions or criteria your team's looking for. You can now just keep firing questions away at this bot, and it's gonna start kicking it back. So it's the same agent, different questions. You can ask it anything about the company, and now this is a tool your entire sales team can use forever. So if we kind of break down what just happened and what's still happening here, it's kicking back some feedback. I spent maybe 30 seconds putting a description in. Hats spent probably 10 seconds building the agent, and the agent completed a research task that would have normally taken 30 minutes to an hour manually is now down to minutes. So that 2-minute investment now saves your team 30 plus minutes every single time they prep for a call. Multiply that across your sales team, and now you're talking about hours reclaimed every single week. Not for like a one-time project, but this is a permanent change now within your organization. So demo one's complete. We built a lead research agent from scratch, tested it live, and saw it return real and useful results in seconds. But sales is not the only team. Kim went through there that the only team that has repetitive tasks. So if we shift gears and we talk about marketing, Milton alluded to this a little bit earlier. But what we want to do here is go back to the chat, create a new chat, and we're going to build out demo number 2. So let's say your marketing team just spent hours writing an amazing blog post. It's live, it's published, and now what? They need to go out and promote it. But creating social posts from a blog takes a ton of time. They have to read the whole post again, pull out key points, write something for each outlet, whether it's Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, maybe an email newsletter, and ensure that the tone for each of those is correct. So this is a multi-step workflow marketing teams repeat over and over again. And here's what usually happens: they don't do it, or they do it and it's not as effective, or they do it once and never touch it again. So what if through one prompt we can handle all of that? So now we're going to talk about building out a workflow. So here we're going to build a multi-step workflow. This is a bit more complex than the agent because we're chaining multiple steps together. But if I go in here and I'm going to do the same exact thing, I'm going to leverage the workshop assistant. So this is going to do the majority of the building for me. And then I'm going to come in here and tell it to create a workflow that takes a blog post URL, summarizes it, and then writes a tweet and a LinkedIn post about it. This time I'm going to get ahead of it. Provide me a link to the workshop. So now it's going to go in and create that workflow for us, right? So here's where it's going to get interesting. This isn't just one tool. It's going to be 3 steps that this is going to complete. It's going to fetch the entire blog. Bear with me one second. It's going to fetch the entire blog, summarize the content for us, and then write 2 different outputs, the tweet and the LinkedIn post, based on the summary. So right now it's going to be configuring the URL input, setting up the web fetching tool, creating the summary step, and then splitting output into 2 different formats, one for short form social and one for a professional LinkedIn content. So historically, this would require a developer, integrations, logic for summarization, templates for different social platforms, and testing each format. Hats is building the entire chain automatically in seconds, not days again. So this is done. Let's open up the workflow that we just built and we can run it live. So if I use a blog post, I'm going to borrow one from our friends here at IP Consulting. They have this awesome blog about shadow AI breaches. So if I enter that, all I have to do is hit generate and it's going to work through each step. Again, we're going to get 3 different outputs from this. The entire blog article. Prompt number 2 is going to be the summary, pulling out all of the key points. And then prompt number 3 are the outputs. Again, a tweet for for Twitter, only 280 characters, of course, a punchy but engaging, and then a LinkedIn post that is going to be more professional, longer, a bit more structured for business context. So this should be kicking back results here shortly, and then I will take you through what that looks like. But the idea now is that your marketing team can take every blog post, turn it into a week's worth of social content, no writer's block, just starting from scratch, and then it's done. Again,
Joe, I'll interject here. This is, again, for me, was one of the just lowest hanging fruits in an organization around leveraging AI, the whole content generation, because like I said, it does take time. And if you're not a copywriter, it's not an easy thing to do. And so being able to, feed this information and it stay on message, and, you still need to review everything, make sure that it's, all correct and exactly the way you would want to write it. But again, you're not starting from ground zero. You're saving a lot of time and being able to just review something and then press, publish.
Absolutely. Thank you, Milton. That is helpful. And yeah, like that human in the loop that Kim referred to is very necessary at this point. You're never just going to post something to your LinkedIn profile for your business without reviewing it. But at least this gives you, if not a finished product, a very good starting point. So what you see here in the first prompt is the entire blog. Down here we have we've summarized it so that it's a bit easier to consume for your team as they're reviewing this. And then here is where we have the tweet. punchy, engaging, even gives you some emojis and fun stuff there. And then a more, professional looking LinkedIn post for you to take and get that out to the masses. We could even take this a step further. And that's kind of the beauty of Hats as well, is this doesn't necessarily have to be the finished project. You can continue to iterate this workflow. So if you want to go in and add another step to either have this email, these three, the output to your entire marketing team's shared email, or you want to have it go and post a draft onto your LinkedIn page, you can integrate it to LinkedIn. You can integrate it to 365 and have it take that additional next step. And again, that's the beauty of these workflows, that you can just continue to build on them and add that automation. So it's really exciting to see what we can do very easily within Hats. So if you kind of look at what we accomplished here in about 15 minutes, um, for the lead research agent, it was built in seconds from one sentence. We had real-time web search on the company, structured, useful output that you can use immediately. Second, for the content repurposing workflow, that's a multi-step automation happening in sequence. Produces real content from the blog article I pulled in there, and can provide multiple output formats automatically. So the opportunity now for your business, and here's why this matters. Every single day, your team are doing tasks like this, right? They're researching prospects, repurposing content, processing leads, pulling data from documents, preparing for meetings. And these are tasks that are very important, but they just consume a lot of time. So your team could spend that time now on higher value work when you're able to build in this type of automation. So again, I want to thank everybody for their time going through this. Happy to answer any questions when we get to that portion. But Kim, I kept my promise there. No code. Again, couldn't do it if I wanted to. But happy to add anything if you think that's necessary.
And Joe, I love the bonus there, the talking about the integrations. And that was, when we were on the chat page, remember we were talking about the tools and all the different integrations. And that's really kind of bounced from, I think when we started talking, there were 50
integrations, and that
Yeah,
wasn't
and
very long ago. And
yeah, I
now
was saying, and now we're climbing up. Same thing with that. You said 72, so 72 models, and I keep saying 70. So that goes back to the whole. We know it's changing every day, so hard to stay in front of it. So I'm glad that we have you on the team to help us stay in front of it. So I know that that's incredible, Joe. Thank you so much for the demo. And for someone who's not technical, this is what I was talking about earlier. I get inspired by you every time we chat, because watching you build those out in real time really did make it feel simple. So I appreciate that. And I really want to make sure that everyone who's watching really gets the reason why behind the ease of use matters so much. It really is that adoption is going to live and die right here, right? If this is hard, people are going to give up. If it's complex to build these things, people won't build it. If it's straightforward, like what Joe just showed us, people are going to use it and they're going to grow from there. They're going to say, what else is possible? What else can I do? And that's the whole game. That's the whole game, you guys. So, all right, I promised you that I would move us through here, and I want to keep us on task here. So here's the simple, transparent pricing. This is, I know, the slide you've all been waiting for. Let's talk about it for just a minute. I want to leave with what I think is the most important on this slide. It's unlimited users at every tier. So whether you're looking at the intro or the professional, it's all of your users. So there's no per seat fees or additional fees on top of that. There's no surprises at the end of the month. There's no like, well, this is what it is for your base, and then you're going to get billed for overage. Those 5 different tiers are all the same. They're going to depend on the size of your organization. Now, we'll say there is one kind of distinct difference, which is at the SMB level and higher is where you're able to enable SSO or single sign-on. And so it wouldn't be available in the intro or the starter packages just because they're smaller. But every single one of those tiers is going to include the 70 plus 72 as of now, different AI models, again, all the unlimited users, the full training curriculum that Joe showed you, which is very good. I've done the training curriculum as well. the workflow and the agent builders. And, if you're trying to put that into context and thinking about, I know that Milton has been investing in AI tools for us for quite some time, but you think about $20 a month for that chat GPT alone. If you've got 30 employees in your organization, you're spending $600 a month, right? That's no governance. There's no adoption support. There's no workflow builders like Joe just showed us. There's no agents. There's no unified experience. So you lack that ability to share. And something we didn't talk a lot about in the demo because we're trying to crunch it all in is that, all those things that you build, you can share across your organization. If you're really proud of it, it's something you can share in the broader community as well. But for me, the math is pretty straightforward. The only real difference between those tiers is the amount of credits that come along with it. So let's talk about credits for just a minute, because I know that can get a little bit confusing. And if you are an AI user today, there's nothing more frustrating than this screen that you see here on the left. It says, well, you've just come to a stopping point because, you're out of credit, so come back again later. And that could really stall adoption for your users. So what this platform does that I think is really different is, instead of shutting you down and saying, well, why don't you try back when you've got more credits, or slide your credit card in here and we'll get you taken care of, is the platform says, no, we believe that we want all users to have access to it, but we got to make some limits. So they do rate limiting, which means that it might take a little bit longer for you to get that information back. Or maybe some of those higher level models like the Opus won't be available to you, but you can use some of those lower level models. So those are the things that they do because they want everyone to just keep working. They don't want to lose that momentum. They don't want your users to lose that time or have those limitations. And again, we can help you pick the right tier that works for your business. We'll guide you through all of that, so nothing to worry about there. Now, I told you guys in the beginning that I had an offer for you. I'm about to get myself in trouble. Let's go ahead and talk about the offer. So the offer, I want to be clear about what it is and what it isn't. So it's a 2 weeks of full platform access. You'll have access to everything that Joe just showed you for your entire organization, whoever you want to pick and choose. There's no onboarding fees. There's no platform fees. There's no hidden fees. It's 2 weeks to be able to kind of kick the tires on it. It's also not a commitment. At the end of 2 weeks, you can continue on your AI journey or you can walk away. Our hope is that during those 2 weeks, your organization can see the same kind of value that we've seen. Now, this is the part where I'm probably going to get myself in trouble. Milton doesn't know this yet, but I'm going to go out on a limb here. I've been working with our friends over at Hats, and I am going to open it up so that we can extend this to be a 30-day trial for the folks who respond back this week. So there's a phone number, there's an email address, there's a website. You can send a carrier pigeon. I swear this is not one of you, but wait, there's more. It really is not a catch. We believe so much in this platform and what it's capable of delivering that we think at the end of the trial, you're going to say, I want to do business with IP Consulting and the Hats team. So it's that simple. So with that, I'm happy to get you guys signed up, try the trial. If after a month you say, you know what, this isn't really for me, no harm, no foul. We're grateful to be able to show you something that we think is kind of fun and cool. But we are kind of getting to the end here. We only have about 10 minutes left. So gentlemen, I know that I've been doing a lot of the talking, and so I really want to make sure that we've talked about the why. We've talked about what's going on right now in the industry. We watched the demo. We revealed the pricing. I even gave an offer. Milton, please don't fire me tomorrow. But it's time for us to get into the hot seat. I know that Stephen's been collecting some questions for us from behind the scenes. And to all of our attendees, if you have a question that hasn't been answered, please do drop them in the chat now. We'll work them in. And like I said before, there's no question that's too basic. I promise. This is a business level conversation, not a technical conversation. But Stephen, I'm going to cue you up. What kind of questions do you have for us?
Yeah, so looks like I have a question here. Why not just start with the intro plan at $225 a month?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take that. The intro plan is a great place to start, right? Depending on the size of your team. You get 30,000 credits with that. But what we see is if you're more than just a few people doing some testing, you can hit that limit pretty early, and then you kind of get some of the, like as Kim mentioned, you get some of the other higher priced models get shut off. So that is, you want to kind of avoid that. But you can always upgrade your plan in the middle of the month, so there's no big issue with around that. But what you'll see is the first few months, you're really experimenting, you're really like trying all different kinds of things. And I'll tell you, we hit a lot of credit that first, that first few months, just trying to understand the platform, playing with it, and testing its capabilities. So, I mean, again, great place to start. Doesn't limit the amount of users. You can still have all your users on it, but you'll hit the 30,000 credit limit pretty quickly.
Okay, looks like we have another one here directly. Why do we need access to 70 plus AI models? That sounds overwhelming. Do we actually use all of them?
So no, you don't usually use all of them, but what we have seen, most teams actively use 3 to 5 models on a regular basis. And the reason that you look at that is that each model has something that excels at, right? So let's say in the scenario of Claude being really good with programming and scripting and doing things like that and reasoning, while you might use another model for data analysis or image generation. So being able to have all of those under one umbrella is very powerful, because before this I had subscriptions to ChatGPT, Claude, right? And all these different platforms and Copilot. So this gives you all of that capability all under one roof and at one monthly price.
And
Awesome.
Milton, I want to kind of tag on to that if I could, just to say, I think the other thing is everyone has a preference. So why 70 models? Well, I kind of talked about it over the last hour. I like ChatGPT, right? And so that's my favorite model. And so what I don't want to miss out on is all the things that the rest of the people in my organization might be building. And so having everything in that one platform, but me getting to kind of pick and choose what works best for me or where my preferences lie, I think is really powerful. Or even
Absolutely.
getting exposed to something that maybe I wouldn't normally do, because Milton bought me the Chat GPT subscription, but now he's saying, hey, you've got to go use this other thing. And I'll say, Nano Banana has been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. For image generation, that's been a really powerful tool for us.
Okay, I have another question here. How do we make sure our entire team is using this and not just a handful of people?
That's exactly why Navigate AI is a managed adoption program, not just the platform, right? So as part of this, we use our clear path methodology that is specifically designed to drive an organization to adopt the AI platform. We do check-ins with you on a monthly basis. We have drop-ins where if your team's struggling with something, they can meet with one of our AI engineers, and we can help work through it, and access to other support. So it's really about adoption and not just getting the platform. And that's what I'm saying. For me, I believe that this is a no-brainer, right? I think it makes a lot of sense for any organization that's currently paying individual subscriptions to at least test it out and see how it will work for them.
And Milton, I know that you've been working kind of behind the scenes with Joe and his team, and I know we didn't really showcase that today, but since this question came up, but around those analytics and being able to see, who's using it, how
Absolutely.
are they using it, what are the most popular models, and really being able to have that holistic view, because really your power builders are going to be the folks that I know. Milton, you've come to me and you said, hey, Kim, I saw you used a lot of credits. What are you working on? And so it was a great opportunity for me to share, like, hey, I built this agent and I'm working on this workflow. And so
Absolutely.
then I know that you've gone to other people and said, hey, check out what Kim's doing. And so that's really that opportunity to get that buy-in and that adoption from your peer group, and not just from someone who says you should use this.
Yeah, the reporting in the platform is fantastic. And being able to see what's the most used workflows or apps or agents that have been built, who's using it, at what rate. That is really powerful information to help you also with your adoption. So, you can quickly see, hey, I noticed that no one in the, accounting department's leveraging this. Maybe we need to have a chat with them. So yes, the reporting, I think, is another major benefit of the platform.
Awesome. Okay, it looks like I have another one here. What happens to our data? Can HATS AI or IPC see what our employees are typing into the platform?
Yeah, I can jump in here. I kind of touched on this one a little bit during the presentation as well. But your data stays secure. The platform, and we have no training contracts with all of the LLMs, so there's nothing. Like, everything that you put in to Hats is capped out, like within your tenant. So that just means nothing's going back and training the model because of those contracts that we have in place. Now, IPC will have visibility again into usage and metrics around like activity within the platform. But the data, like what you're putting into your prompts, that's secure. Like that can't be viewed at this point, without you opting into it. So it's actually really one of the main reasons why organizations are choosing this type of platform over free tools or even paid versions of GPT or Claude.
Absolutely, that's 100%. We can't see your, particular queries or anything like that. Not even the admins. They're coming out with a version that we can do for auditing purposes. If you're in a specific industry that has requirements around that, they recently HATS recently told us about that program. We're super excited, especially for customers to have compliancy and regulation needs. This will make a lot of sense also for you.
Hey, Stephen, not to jump in here, and I know we're coming to the end. I think I've got time for one more, and one of them slipped over to me, so I'm going to take this. It says, what does the training actually look like, and is this something our team has to figure out on their own? I'm going to take this question because this is one that I was really frustrated and concerned about. It's so easy. The way they do it is there's modules. So there's different training scenarios that are there. One of them actually takes you through use case. So it's meant for you to take a while to go through it. That's kind of an advanced one, but it'll take you. So it's a builder so that you're doing it along with those videos, but they're short, they're modularized. So it's not something where I have to sit through 4 hours of training. If I've got 10 minutes, I can learn something in 10 minutes. And I really appreciate that. And the videos are very engaging. Milton, I see you're actually interacting with another question that came into the general chat. Do you want to talk about that for everyone, and then I'm gonna tune us out? You're muted.
For sure. Just someone asked if it supported single sign-on, and yes, it does. At the SMB tier, we do support integration with, Office 365, Azure domains, so you're able to do single sign-on with the platform.
All right, gentlemen, it looks like we're coming to the end of our time together. So Milton and Joe, thank you both so much for joining me today and sharing your time and your expertise with everyone. I'd also like to thank everyone on the call for joining us. I hope this time has given you a little bit of clarity and confidence and maybe just a little bit of excitement about what's possible for your organization. Just a few reminders as we wrap up. Our team is going to be following up with a recording of today's session, as well as a link to some of our other AI resources. So watch for that in your inbox. And then don't forget about the free trial, the 2 weeks / 30 days, and that's for your entire organization to start getting them going. And remember, no fees, no commitment, really no risk, and lots of ways to get a hold of us. Happy to have a conversation with you. But I really wanted to just kind of leave you with this. I talked about this a little bit earlier, but the organizations that build out their AI habits now are going to look very different from the ones who are still deciding a year from today. So you have really nothing to lose and a whole lot of clarity to gain. So thank you, everyone, for your time, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Have a
Thanks,
great rest
everyone.
of your day. All right, well, we're right